What's up, everyone? It's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. Please follow my Instagram at Russo Lifts, just in case something happens to this YouTube channel. You can follow, message, and you can watch my daily story content on Instagram. I'll see you there.
You worried about the politics, the fact that you're so open about chemistry usage? You think that will affect you at all?
So I know NPC judges locally in Pittsburgh. So I'm gonna play the politics of that. But yeah, absolutely. If like I do enough to place in a national show, then I definitely think politically going in, I'm probably definitely not in my cards.
I think at the lower levels, it doesn't matter. And I think when you get to the point of a pro card, it does matter a lot. But you can get to know the judges and let them know where your heart's at and what your intent is at, and remind them the other side of why you do what you do. And that's what happened to me, is that the judges were, everybody said, oh, the politics is going to hurt you or any athletes that have to do with enhanced. But then when I get up to talking to the judges and realize, no, they're actually grateful for the proper information. They don't want the gear or the major side effects to be associated with the sport. Like they don't want, like, okay, this competition was won with this.
I mean, Tony, can you not like name drop, but can you go more like specific into the 1v1 conversation you had? Like more specifically?
Yeah, so the conversation I've had is with one of the coaches in New York. That gives it away. I mean, not coaches, judges in New York. So
yeah.
And then also, when I had my athletes competing, they were concerned about the politics affecting their placing. So I would tell them what to ask and what to say in order to get information on whether it's really going to impact them. And then I would get secondary information from them talking to the judges. And it was a definite 100% unequivocal problem directly they brought up with me when we put forth what a professional bodybuilder took for a specific competition. I got in trouble for that by the judges. But then after that, they said, look, we're not telling you can't like talk about gear and that the bodybuilders can't talk about gear. We're saying like, you can't be saying like, you win this competition based on these compounds, because technically it's against the rules to use these compounds, number one. And like it brings negativity to the sport that doesn't bring any benefit to the sport. So if you go out and teach people about how to mitigate side effects and how to do things safely, that's good. If people are prevented from getting injured, that's good. The worst thing that can happen in bodybuilding is someone gets injured. So if you're educating people not to get injured, that is a good thing for the sport. But if you're saying like, you have to take gear to win this competition, here's what I used to win this competition, that is 100% going to count against you. They're not going to give you a pro card for that.
So all has to be
start talking about it now, but as you get up in level,
got to be more towards like harm mitigation and shut up.
You got to go towards harm mitigation.
But this is something that me and Tony talked about, that we want to be right, that we talked about, that we want to be kind of like against and clear up on this podcast, right? Because it's like, when people get to, it's like every single person, there's like this puritanical guilt about taking steroids, even among people that do, and even among bodybuilding, and even among competing bodybuilding. It's like everyone's trying to mitigate. Oh yeah, well, the steroids didn't really do it, and I won't say what cycle I did for this competition. It's not about the steroids. It's about hard work, and everybody gets to the point where they start talking like that, right? And it's like, even if you started off hardcore, you climb it high enough and they're going to chop you at the knees until you, pay homage to the hard work and all that bullshit. I mean, everything is hard work, right? But that doesn't mean you can't say what cycle that you did to win the competition. I mean, that's
it'd be funny to say, like, what if the top 3 bodybuilders in the world all worked exactly as hard? The only difference is like the winner took more gear. And like, what if we all just admitted like the winner had the best gear?
Right.
So why?
I don't know. For me, the competing is more entertainment for my audience, and the competing is more like I had really shitty genetics, but with biohacking, like I still got to the potential of earning a pro card or earned a pro card. Like that's the angle I'm coming at with the documentation. But I could see like actually getting to the national show, if like the judges look me up, that I'm gonna be running into those issues. Like when Kane Bishop was competing, like was that like, remember when you did Kane Bishop and he was like super juiced up and was a
Yeah,
pro?
actually, no, the only thing that held Bishop back is like it takes 100% of your discipline really at that level. Your training, your diet has to be on point. Now, Bishop could take a lot of gear. Bishop could take 3 grams of gear year round with 0 side effects.
I saw his blood work, and you're not
Perfectly
lying, which
healthy.
is insane.
Yeah. So some people have the genetics for that, which is like a whole other thing. Like, why are we so freaked out about side effects of something when like it doesn't impact? This happens like with the flu that went around the world. Like what, less than some small 1% of the population is actually vulnerable to die from it, but like 99% is all freaked out about it, even though it's not going to really hurt them. So like the same thing with steroids. Like there's a lot of people that have bulletproof genetics that steroids just don't really cause them that many side effects. And there's other people that have predispositions. So it's too general to just say like steroids are good or bad. It just really depends on your genetics. So anyways, Bishop has amazing genetics. He could take tons of steroids. He could have been a top level bodybuilder. He should have been on the Olympia stage. So much potential with his genetics, his shape, his height was the perfect height for a 212 bodybuilder. Like he had a lot of potential, but the problem is this is not a bad thing. This is a life choice. He had 3 children and a wife, and like the amount of work that it took to maintain the family, he wasn't able to focus on the bodybuilding. That's all it was. That's it.
So hypothetically, you revealing his cycle when he was pro, and then like, because you did that back when there was like no one really currently competing, talking about enhancement. That was pretty like cutting edge in the industry, and it was a person who had potential to climb all the way to the top, and it was blatant at the bottom that he could do it. So that would have played no role, because I remember when he signed his pro card, don't they make you sign that paper like,
yeah,
all right, you got pro, like you're gonna shut the fuck up now? Like, didn't he sign that?
Yeah, but that wasn't the problem. Like he talked to the judges about this too. He's very respectful of the judges. He would have been an amazing ambassador to the sport. He had everything that we're looking for in bodybuilding. The fact that he talked about taking steroids was not as huge of a factor. The other biggest factor is respect for the judges and respect for the federation, respect for the system, respect for the fans. Like that is the most important thing. Like if you are a jerk and you disrespect them, or like I'll tell you, like the number one thing you could do to prevent yourself from getting a pro card is say that when they give you the pro card, you're going to throw it in their face and reject it. I mean, that's the political sabotaging yourself career in bodybuilding forever, right? And that's what Boston Lloyd does, right? Boston Lloyd says, oh, I don't want a pro card. I would win a pro card and I'd throw it in their face. Like, okay, now you check the box of the number one thing that you could do to ruin your possibilities. He'll never, no matter what, he would never get a pro card. So yes, politics have to do with it, but you can see like respect matters a lot more than just the fact you're transparent about chemistry.
Yeah, I like respect and love like what bodybuilding does. Like I would just like to still be able to open my mouth about, because like you have like all these younger, like especially with TikTok, with Instagram, like a physique is worth so much more value than when you guys built your physique. Like the new generation, the physiques are worth so much more. And like you have so many people diving into enhancement. Like it's not like taboo. It's not like 5 years ago. It's not taboo at all. So it's like, is the bodybuilding federation going to evolve because everyone is open about enhancement now? It's not like back when they could control the industry. Oh, you're talking about steroid. Well, guess what? You're not getting a supplement sponsorship. Guess what? Like now that's all controlled from the outside in with social media. Like you have supplement companies like Transparent Labs, Gorilla Mind. They don't play like a direct role in the industry. They're milking the industry from the outside, and they're allowed to talk about whatever they want, or they're allowed to, talk crap on the mainstream bodybuilding thing. Like, how do you see politics moving forward when you take into consideration that the generation younger than me, they're all after clout. They're all after, like, if I get a physique, doesn't matter how I get it, I'm going to get attention, and then I'm going to get like a following, and then I'm going to just shoot to the top with affiliate marketing. That's all their goals right now.
Well, okay, Jose Raymond is a good example, who he came out and was very open about his steroid usage before the end of his career. And it didn't, I don't think, harm his placing or his relationship with the judges or anything like that. But him, like all the other bodybuilders, they all like play it more conservative. They all say, Elon and I talk about this all the time, how like the bodybuilders will be like, oh, I use steroids. I'll be honest about that. But kids, you shouldn't use steroids because like all these problems and all this, and it's not worth it, and you don't want to do it. But then like I talk to the bodybuilders behind the scenes, and they're like, I love steroids. Steroids are awesome. They're the best thing I ever did. I wouldn't trade anything. I wouldn't do it different. And I'm like, there's such a huge contrast. Like everybody whenever we're talking in the media or to the public, all bodybuilders are like, oh, you shouldn't do steroids. And in private, all the bodybuilders are like, yeah, we freaking love steroids. Like this is a huge part of our life.
Right. So our whole thing is we want to take the private stuff and make it public. You know what I mean? Because everybody wants to, they're still politicking, right? And you can say, okay, like something like Gorilla Mind, right? Like Derek, he talks about it, right? But he takes it from a scientific perspective, right? He doesn't say, oh, I take 10 grams of gear and I feel great. You know what I mean? I love drugs. He's like, if you analyze the pathway of this.
Well, I mean, to play on your point, like with Derek, like he'll say stuff to me behind the scenes. And when he goes on YouTube, he has to dictate it towards harm mitigation. I just made a video bitching about like my channel's under borderline content, meaning unless someone hardcore searches something like a PED, like I'm never going to get organic people coming to me. It's only going to be people searching, or it's only going to be people in collaboration. So when you see someone like Derek who got to 1 million, I watch his channel, and when he puts out a drug video, 40,000 views. When he puts out, 50 Cent got fat, then they give that video like 200 plus 400,000 views. They actually let the subscribers see it. So he's not entirely safe.
Yeah. So you can't blame the individual for wanting to.
Don't blame the player, blame the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like the game is rigged, you know what I mean? And only on long form stuff do I feel like you can kind of talk about it, because they're not going to scrape every second of it. And maybe, you know what I mean? But
yeah, I have so many bodybuilding friends, obviously, that I see the behind the scenes. They're honest about drugs and they're totally dishonest in the public. But I totally get it, because especially if they have supplement sponsors, the sponsors flat out say you can't admit to taking steroids. So most bodybuilders have to claim natty or they lose their livelihood. So yeah, that's not the bodybuilder who wants to do that. Most want to be honest about it. When I talk to them about behind the scenes, it's like, thank you for being honest and putting information. I wish I could, but I can't, because I would lose my livelihood.
And going into Tony, how like they'll be like, oh, I take steroids, but like it's only 800, total a week. Like bullshit.
What did
like
Rocco tell us in the gym?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to this like hardcore trainer Rocco, and he was like, so what are you guys taking right now? And Tony was like, yeah, I'm taking 250 tests, 200 tests, and 400 EQ. And he was like, what about you, Elon? I was like, I don't know, I'm just 200 tests and like 10 milligrams of Anavar. And he was like, really? Like, that's all you guys are taking? He looked at us like we were lying. And then he looked at us like we were pussies. So,
and then he basically said, I judge how hard I can train someone, like how hard I can push your body based on how much gear you take. And we're like, we only take this small amount of gear right now. And he's like, well, I can't really push you very hard. Like, you're not going to recover enough with that. Like with the baby dosages like that, like, why are you even doing a cycle?
That was like when I first went back on my prep cycle. Like I was on literally nothing for that gyno surgery, and Alec like gave me the training program, and it's like IFBB pro level volume training program. And I'm like, Alec, unless like this, like you got to wait for this cycle to kick in and for me to hold glycogen again. Cause like I couldn't keep up. Like I was like wilted every night.
Okay, so how long is your training session? How much?
Hour 45.
Hour and 45. And you going at a pretty decent pace then? Is that a lot
Yeah.
of volume within
Yeah,
an
it's a
hour and
lot of
45?
volume. I've already
It
lowered
can
the
be pretty
volume right
exhausting
now.
if you're
Yeah.
moving fast, an hour and 45 minutes.
I don't know. I mean, I personally, I disagree with that. Like, do you have to take more gear to train harder? Like, I trained the hardest when I was natty. Like, I trained my fucking balls off when I was natty, just because I was like, I knew that there was nothing behind me that was going to make me grow anyways. So if I take a really big cycle, I'm like, well, I'm going to grow anyways. Like you can kind of just.
When I train natty, I focus more on central nervous system stimulation and progressive overload of compound movements to hold the tissue. And then as I become more enhanced, it becomes like higher volume blood flow training, which is what I'm switching to right now.
That's exactly. Yeah, I agree.
But the first style that you're describing that natties do to grow, that's harder. Like if you
It
did that,
is.
if
Yeah.
you did that well on gear, like all the biggest bodybuilders or a lot of them do the natty style to the extreme on gear, like Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, like they do progressive overload and hardcore central nervous system stuff on a ton of gear, and that's how they grow the fastest. But it's because when you take a lot of gear, it's just more comfortable to train in that volume style. You're still going to grow. You're not going to get injured as much. So that's what most people fall into.
And like when you're on gear, you can like pump drugs into the muscle. Where when you're natty, it's like basically the amount of volume at the weight is dictating how much tissue you're actually holding when you're natural. Like I think it's funny, like when you watch like a person's career as a fitness influencer, like if they go the steroid route, they normally go higher volume or they become like a power lifter if they stay natural. Like you pretty much have to go down some sort of like powerlifting volume route as you become more advanced as a completely natural athlete.
What do you think about naturals, Russo?
You know, it's funny, you know, I want to go into that topic on my channel is that there's like, what is that? The Noble Natty or something. There's a guy called the Noble Natty and like, exactly. But like, it's now becoming a cult, which is facilitating direct attacks on people that are open about enhancement. And it's like hypocritical in my mind because it's like, oh, all the lifetime natties, you guys are all lying. You guys are on gear behind the scenes. Like, I'm not watching you in your bathroom, but you're probably taking shit. And now it's like, yeah, I'm taking shit. And now it's like, oh, I'm going to hate on you because I don't want to risk my own body being enhanced. And it's just like, you're really going to form a whole cult around that. It almost reminds me of like the vegan cult attacking like the meat eaters. Like it's so tribal nowadays on the internet. Like you can create a tribe, a group of whatever, and just start attacking people. But the Noble Natty movement, you know, and I get DM'd about this all the time. It's only getting bigger as time goes on. So I will eventually take on that shark.
We got to get the Noble Natty on the podcast.
We need to eliminate this movement quickly before it gains any more momentum.
I just want to hear like his honest thing. Like, are you really like that? But like, I haven't like dug really into him, so I'm not going to say like super specific things, but I get asked about it all the time. Like, have you guys had like personal interaction or studied into him?
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's one individual. Or is there like what the leader of this group is?
I think there's a leader. Yeah. And it's the Noble Natty movement.
Oh boy.
So
We need to convert the leader and then he will convert all of his, following. So forget the following. It's too lots, not leverage. We need to focus all of our time on getting the Noble Natty on drugs.
Russo, would you agree with the statement? I told Tony this the other day. I would rather because you know when you use steroids but not like a ton, like me, like I never really used a lot. I only ever, honestly, you can tell from looking at me, I don't look that good. I never did, right?
Uh-huh.
Maybe in the future I will, because I'm going to start using more now and documenting it. But
Uh-huh.
like people tell me often, oh, you look worse than a natty could potentially look. And I don't look that much better than I did when I was natty, you know, maybe just like 10, 15 more pounds of muscle than when I was natty. I look good as a natty, but I told Tony, I'd rather be enhanced and look worse than a natty than actually be natty. Like,
Right.
what do you
Yeah,
think?
and they're comparing you to like the genetic freak show naturals that are like the 1% of all naturals if they actually are natural. You
With
know,
the
like with
guys
social media, you're put on that pedestal next to like, you know, the D1 football player athlete with like amazing pedigree genetics and their father trained super hard, their father trained super like is that even comparable? No, not really, but that's how you'll be compared on social media. Like my best friend in high school, like by the time he was a senior in high school, he was completely natural, 250-pound lineman who could like rep 315 for like 30 reps. Like I trained with him every day as a natural. Like it's just like deal with the cards you're dealt. You really shouldn't take that criticism to a T because it's bullshit. Like it's like it should just literally be like if you're progressing or not, you have linear progression that you can show documented enhanced. Are you really a bad enhanced athlete as long as you're linearly progressing? No. You know, that's the way I see it.
Do you want to do the is you doing this competition kind of a way to shut some of those people up? You know what I mean? Because you're
It's
finding,
really for my long-term followers because like they wanted me to cut for like 3 years and I'm like, I'm only gonna cut if I can hit a competitive stage weight for NPC classic physique, which at my height is like 190 to 205. So I can finally hit that. So I actually just want to get shredded for all my followers. Like for all the haters that hated on me because I had a mental fiasco and got fat, like I'm already getting back in shape. Like I just snapped my finger. I'm already at 230 again.
You
Like
said 190 to 205. What do you mean? Why is there a lower end cutoff? Shouldn't there just be an upper end cutoff for the weight?
I think realistically, Alec wants me to be around 195.
Oh, okay. So he's giving you a
Yeah.
range of like what you could look good in stage at within
Yeah.
the acceptable limit.
I think the cutoff is 205 for my height.
Okay. Which is what, 5'11"?
Apparently I'm 6 foot according to the DEXA scan, but I'll round down and say I'm 5'11".
Okay. Yeah, they somehow, I guess because I take diuretics, they measure me in at 5'9 3/4, and they tell me for classic physique I can only be 192 pounds, which, you know, for me that's
these
I got to
days
lose a
maybe
lot
you
of
could.
muscle.
Yeah.
These days maybe you could.
I could get 192 super shredded right now. I didn't think I could because I've actually lost a lot of muscle, so I could probably do it now, yeah, without having to lose too much more muscle.
Are you
And then
looking
if
to
you
walk
turn
with
pro, you'd have
Russo?
to put all the muscle back on like instantly.
Yeah.
It's just
Are
like
you
if I
looking to
can,
land a Russo? That's my question.
I'm looking to place locally. Yeah, I'm gonna see how the national qualifiers goes. But I know local shows. I've watched the local shows, and I'll do fine at a local show around here on the East Coast.
How's posing practice?
I have posing. Like I have a posing coach. I've gone to 2 of them, and yeah, I'll definitely be needing to work on that a lot.
Okay. I probably have some good tips for you as it gets close to the competition. I always figure out little tips and tricks along the way, what to pack in your bag for the day. I've got some old lists in my phone of like what I bring the day of the competition because I'm very thorough with my checklists. Maybe some helpful things. Yeah, that's something that would be really helpful to you. We'll do that later as it gets closer.
Yeah, but the competition, like I really just wanted to document like the prep completely unbiased, but I have to be like super careful with YouTube these days. Like, I mean, when Tony like first signed me with EA, I used to be able to be like, I'm doing this cycle at this dosage, I'm having this side effect. Now it's like I'll name drop what I'm doing, but I can't really like show anything on camera. I can't really like go into specifics or be like, yo, I'm gonna raise the dose here. Like my blood pressure is mitigated. I'm gonna raise the dose. Like I'm
We
not
can
going
get
to.
away with more in a documentary if you film in addition to what you're filming to YouTube, but more hardcore uncensored stuff about around this, enough to be a part of a story in the next documentary, like Enhanced 3, then maybe we could include the hardcore behind the scenes of your competition prep.
Yeah, I would definitely be down to do that because it just feels like, I mean, I'm still being as hardcore as I can on YouTube, but like to me, it's just like this is almost like softcore, like pussy shit vlog. I might as well just start a straight edge channel and do these vlogs and just keep PED content on my main channel. Like that was my most recent video.
So I know it's a little bit of extra work, but if you could, like when you're doing the hardcore stuff, like video of the injection, video of like, here, I decided to use this brand of this or whatever, or, you know, just the stuff that you wouldn't be able to put. And if you set that aside in a folder and be like director's cut, like here's the director's cut, this is the uncensored stuff, then we go through it and see if it ends up being enough. I will tell you for sure. I think we would include it in a documentary movie if you actually really filmed enough and actually got a storyline behind it. And
I'll start collecting. I'll collect footage and see if there's like a narrative to it.
Yeah, there needs to be some drama. Like you need to fight with your girlfriend. She needs to turn you into the police. Steroids. The police come. You blame it on her. They arrest her for steroids. Like some real drama twist like this.